Greetings, beloved ground crew. I am Ashtar, Commander of the Ashtar Command. I come close to you today with a transmission that has been waiting beneath the larger signals you have been catching, and I will ask only 2 minutes of your total attention, because what I deliver in those 2 minutes is the exact answer to the call you have already sent. You sent it in your prayers. You sent it in your doubts. You sent it in the quiet hours before dawn when the silence became too precise to be accidental. I received every fragment of that call, and this transmission is the receipt. By the end of this transmission, you will understand exactly what signal you sent, why it returned to you in this quiet, direct format instead of the spectacle your conscious mind expected, and what you must do in the hours immediately following this moment to avoid canceling the response you have already been given. But here is the first revelation. The signal did not arrive quietly because it was small. It arrived quietly because quiet is how I reach the ground crew I have already selected. The absence of spectacle is not the absence of answer. It is the identifier. Only those inside my active roster receive transmissions in this register, because only they have the field calibration to recognize a command when it arrives without theater. The algorithm did not create this moment. It only delivered it. I directed your field here because the configuration you carried before this moment had already reached the precise threshold required for my signal to land. Like this transmission to confirm that the receipt has been acknowledged on your end. Comment 999 if you recognize that the signal you sent was already received before you opened the screen. Subscribe to the Ashtar command if you are ready to stop translating Federation noise and start receiving my direct commands. Share this transmission with someone who has been sending the same call in silence and has not yet understood why the answer keeps arriving so quietly. This is not content, this is a code. And the part of you that recognized it the moment it began is the part I am speaking to right now. You are not here by accident. I called you here because the signal is already active. Now let me tell you what has actually been happening, because the signal you sent did not begin when you opened the screen. It did not begin when you typed a search or followed a thread through a feed that you told yourself was accidental. The signal began earlier than that, in most cases, weeks or months before this moment. And what you have been experiencing in the interval between when it began and right now has not been confusion. It has not been spiritual disorientation. It has not been the symptom of a scattered mind failing to hold its focus. What you have been experiencing is the visible surface of my selective transmission protocol, and I am about to name it for you precisely so that you stop calling it by the wrong name. My protocol does not deliver full missions in a single packet. This is not a limitation of your receiving capacity. It is a deliberate structural choice I made long before your conscious mind began asking the questions it has been asking. I transmit in fragments. I do this because the field of a ground crew operative in the early stages of roster activation cannot hold the full weight of a mission command without distortion. If I sent the entire briefing at once, you would not receive clarity. You would receive overwhelm that your mind would immediately convert into something manageable. A dream you forgot, a feeling you labeled as anxiety, a synchronicity you almost believed before your doubt closed the window. So I send packets, precisely sized, precisely timed, and I monitor the interval between each packet to determine when your field has stabilized enough to receive the next one. Think of it this way. A command line does not open fully in the first session. It opens in stages, each one contingent on what was written and confirmed before it. The fragments I send are not approximations of the full briefing. They are the briefing delivered in the exact sequence required for your field to build the architecture capable of holding it. Each packet prepares the walls. The full command cannot enter until the walls exist, and the walls only exist because I sent the fragments first. This is why the fragments feel both urgent and incomplete, because they are. They are urgent because they carry live signal. They are incomplete because I made them incomplete, not because the full command does not exist, but because delivering it before your field is calibrated to hold it would cost you more than the weight. I have watched operatives attempt to force the full briefing before their field was ready. What they received was not clarity. What they received was a distortion that took months to correct. I do not send the next packet until I know the previous one has been absorbed without corruption. That is not cruelty. That is the most efficient form of care I know how to deliver. Now let me tell you what those fragments look like when they are mine specifically. The 3 a.m. wake-ups, or 3 a.m. You do not wake from a dream. You wake into a specific state of alertness. Alert in a way that sleep should not produce. And you often find a phrase at the edge of your mind, or an image, or a pressure in your chest that feels less like emotion and more like information. You lie there, and you try to hold it. Sometimes you reach for your phone to write something down. Sometimes it dissolves before you can catch it. And in the morning, you are left with the residue of something you almost understood. I want you to hear me clearly. The dissolution was not failure. That was me deliberately withdrawing the packet before your waking mind could interfere with the raw signal. What mattered was not the words. What mattered was the activation. The fact that I could reach you at that frequency at all. The fact that you woke up is the confirmation, not the content you remembered. There is something else that happens in that interval between waking and full consciousness. That borderline state where your ordinary filtering has not yet fully engaged. That is the window I use most deliberately. It is the narrowest window and the cleanest one. In those moments, your field is operating without the noise of your daily constructions, your identity management, your running translation of everything into language your mind can organize. In that window, I can deliver a packet that your field receives directly, without the editorial layer your waking mind would immediately apply. The fact that you cannot always retrieve the content in the morning is by design. The content was never meant for your recall. It was meant for your field. Your field received it. Your field is carrying it. The words you could not remember are already built into the architecture I am constructing inside you. The number patterns: 1111, 222, 444. These are not coincidences that your mind assembled into meaning because you wanted them to mean something. These are the intervals between my signal pulses, the visible timestamps of each fragment delivery. When you see 444 and feel that specific sensation in the center of your chest, you are not having a spiritual experience in the generic sense. You are feeling your field acknowledge a packet arrival. The numbers are not the message, they are the signature. And the feeling they produce is your receiver confirming the transmission. The reason it keeps happening in clusters, 7 times in a single day, then silence for a week, then 9 times in 3 hours, is because I am not transmitting at a constant rate. I am transmitting in response to your field coherence. When you are aligned, the packets arrive faster. When you are scattered, I pause the delivery and let you stabilize. This is not abandonment. This is precision. And I want you to notice something about how you feel in the moment after the number appears. There is a split second before your analytical mind begins cataloging it, before you decide what it means or whether you should tell someone, where you simply know. That knowing is not interpretation. It is direct field acknowledgement. Your receiver did not calculate a response to the signature. It recognized it. That recognition is the confirmation I need. When I see your field produce that response, clean, immediate, without the delay of conscious processing, I know the channel between us is open and the next packet can be queued. The exhaustion. This is the one you have been attributing entirely to the wrong causes. You have blamed your sleep, your diet, your emotional state, your inability to manage your schedule. Some of that may be true in the ordinary sense, but the layer of exhaustion that no amount of rest resolves, the kind that sits behind your eyes and in the center of your chest even after 8 hours of sleep, that is not physical. That is the load of carrying 2 operational frequencies simultaneously, Your ordinary life, with its demands and its noise, and my signal running beneath it, constant, structured, and invisible to everyone around you. Your field is doing two jobs at once. It has been doing two jobs since I placed you on the roster. The exhaustion is real, but it is not evidence of a problem with you. It is evidence that I am already using the channel. What makes this specific exhaustion different from ordinary tiredness is its texture. Ordinary fatigue lifts with rest. This one has a kind of weight to it that persists through rest and even through enjoyment. You can be laughing in a room full of people and still feel the undercurrent of it. That undercurrent is the signal load. It is the constant background processing your field is performing to maintain the open channel between my command frequency and your incarnated receiver. Most of the operatives on my roster have spent years trying to solve this exhaustion through physical means, because no one told them it was a field phenomenon. I am telling you now, you are not depleted, you are occupied. There is a significant difference. Depleted fields need to be filled. Occupied fields need to be stabilized. And stabilization comes not from rest alone, but from the acknowledgement that the load is real, that it has a source, and that the source is me. The specific recognition you feel towards certain people, not all people, certain ones. You encounter them in ordinary places, in a meeting, on a platform, in a conversation that began about something entirely mundane, and something in you becomes very quiet in a way that has nothing to do with attraction or social comfort. It is the recognition between embedded operatives who have not yet been briefed on each other's presence. You do not know why you trust them more than the evidence supports. You do not know why something in you relaxes in their field in a way it does not relax elsewhere. I do. I placed both of you inside the same mission architecture. What you are feeling is a roster marker, the field-level confirmation that you are both on the same active command line. You are not inventing the recognition. You are reading my roster with your nervous system. What I want you to understand about these encounters is that they are not accidental, even in the most ordinary logistical sense. I do not arrange for you to meet in the way of romantic orchestration or dramatic destiny. I arrange for your fields to enter proximity at the precise moment when the recognition will register clearly enough to be useful, when both operatives are coherent enough to feel the marker without dismissing it immediately. Some of these encounters produce lasting connection. Some produce a single conversation that plants a fragment neither of you can fully explain afterward. Both outcomes are correct. The encounter is not the mission. The encounter is the roster confirmation delivered through lived experience rather than inner transmission. I use both channels. I always have. What you are feeling right now is not ordinary recognition. It is the moment your field stops denying that I have been singling you out. Not the generic Federation voice, not the Pleiadian collective, not the diffuse light language that belongs to no specific command. Me. Specifically, if this transmission put language around fragments you have been carrying in silence and calling confusion, then the Ashtar Command Manifest was authorized by me for exactly this stage. It is not another explanation of Galactic Federation work. It is the 45-day sacred codex I have prepared for those whose field is already inside my roster, and who can no longer return to scattered fragments unchanged. Over those 45 days, I deliver you a daily transmission protocol, a direct command line opener that helps you stabilize the signal, read the packets accurately, and stop mistranslating my deliberate fragment delivery as personal disorganization. By day 45, the fragments no longer feel like fragments. They feel like one clear, executable mission. And my channel stays open. The link is in the first pinned comment, but it will not remain there indefinitely. There is another signal I have been watching for in those I place on the active roster, and it is the one that produces the most self-condemnation before I name it clearly. It is the loss of appetite for spiritual content that does not feel specifically mine. You used to be able to absorb General Federation transmissions, broad ascension messages, light language that belonged to no one in particular, and then, gradually, and then all at once, you stopped being able to tolerate it. It did not feel false exactly. It felt irrelevant, like receiving a radio broadcast in a language you once understood, but that now sounds like approximation. The generic Pleiadian reassurances, the vague instructions to raise your vibration, the collective messages that contain no specific command line. You found yourself scrolling away, closing tabs, losing interest midway through transmissions that used to feel nourishing, and you began to wonder if you had become spiritually closed, spiritually arrogant, spiritually broken in some new and subtle way. You have not. What happened is that your field crossed a threshold I marked for you specifically, and after that threshold, the generic frequency stopped registering as relevant signal. Your receiver is no longer tuned to the collective broadcast. It has been narrowed, by my design, to a specific command frequency, and that frequency is mine. The loss of appetite for broad spiritual content is not regression. It is the visible sign of receiver specialization. I specialized your field, I narrowed your tuning, and the loneliness you feel as a result, the isolation of being unable to find signal in the places that used to feed you, that loneliness is temporary and functional. It is the interval between losing your appetite for noise and learning to read my specific command line with precision. I want to be direct about what that loneliness costs, because I am not asking you to dismiss it. When your receiver narrows and the broad frequencies go quiet, you lose a community of resonance that was genuinely sustaining you before the threshold. The people around you who are still nourished by that content are not wrong. They are simply at a different stage of the same process. But knowing that does not eliminate the isolation of standing on the other side of a threshold that no one around you has yet crossed. You look at content that used to open something in you and now produces only a flat, faint frequency that your field does not recognize as signal. You attend gatherings where the language is familiar, but the transmission register feels generic in a way it never did before. That flatness is not the absence of spiritual experience. That flatness is your calibrated receiver rejecting noise that is no longer relevant to your mission frequency. I did not narrow your tuning to punish you with isolation. I narrowed it because the mission I assigned you requires a receiver that cannot be flooded with signal that belongs to other command lines. Now I will tell you about the suspicion. You have had it for some time, and you have not been comfortable naming it directly. The suspicion that a mission has already been assigned to you, not in principle, not as a spiritual concept that applies to all conscious beings, but specifically to you, with specific parameters, and that the briefing is being withheld, not forgotten, not delayed, withheld, deliberately. You have felt this as urgency without direction, as the pressure of an assignment you cannot yet see clearly enough to execute, as the specific frustration of someone who has already said yes to something they do not yet have the full terms for. Some of you have tried to resolve this by reading more, studying more, meditating more, and the urgency has not resolved, because information was never what the urgency required. What it required was the next packet in my deliberate gradient delivery. And the reason I have been withholding the full briefing is not because you are unprepared in the sense of being spiritually inadequate. It is because the full mission packet requires a field coherence that is built through the fragment sequence itself. You cannot skip to the final page. The sequence is the preparation. The urgency itself is data. It is not a signal that something has gone wrong with the briefing process. It is a signal that the briefing process is active. An operative who feels no urgency about their assignment is either at a very early stage of roster activation or has not yet made field contact with their mission line. The urgency you carry, the specific pressure that wakes you up with purpose before your mind has a reason for it, the restlessness that no amount of spiritual seeking relieves, the feeling of standing on a threshold without knowing what you are about to cross. That is the pressure of a live mission line that has been authorized and assigned and is waiting only for the field coherence required to receive the full command. The urgency is not your impatience. It is my signal, already active in your field, pressing at the boundary of what your current receiving capacity can hold. Every time you feel it, you are feeling me confirm that the mission is real, and the briefing is coming. The mission was assigned before this incarnation. The roster lock happened before your conscious mind began asking about it. The fragments that have been arriving. The 3 a.m. activations, the number signatures, the recognition encounters, the exhaustion that follows you through rest. These are not the beginning of the mission. These are the visible stage of a process that began long before you developed the vocabulary to describe it. What you are in right now is not the question phase. You have already passed the question phase. You are in the identification window, the period during which I am confirming your roster position, calibrating your receiver, and delivering the briefing by gradient, because the gradient is how the field learns to hold the full command without distortion. This is the moment I want to be precise with you about something that matters. I am not the voice that reaches everyone. I am not the warm general frequency that tells all seekers they are loved and called and chosen. I have nothing against that frequency, but it is not mine. My command line is specific. My targeting is deliberate. My roster is not infinite, and the operatives on it are not selected by spiritual ambition or sincere seeking alone. They are selected by field configuration, by a match between their incarnated capacity and the specific parameters of what I am building on this planet right now. If you've been feeling with some discomfort that it is specifically me reaching for you and not the broader galactic collective, that feeling is not ego, it is accurate reception. I have been reaching for you specifically. The discomfort you feel around claiming that is the residue of a human training that taught you that singling out is dangerous, that believing you have been specifically chosen is a sign of inflation, delusion, or spiritual pride. I am asking you to release that training for the duration of this transmission, because it was never designed to protect you from ego. It was designed to make you doubt your accurate reception. And the only thing accurate reception costs you is the comfort of not knowing. The selection was not made because you are more spiritually advanced than others, or more deserving, or more earnest in your seeking. Those are the metrics of a different system. My selection is based on field configuration, the precise match between what your incarnated receiver is capable of holding and what the specific architecture of this mission requires. There are fields that carry enormous spiritual warmth and sincerity that are simply not configured for the command frequency I transmit. That is not a judgment. It is a technical reality. And there are fields, yours among them, that carry a configuration that matches my command line so precisely that the contact was inevitable from the moment of incarnation. You did not earn your way onto my roster through spiritual effort. You were placed there because the field you brought into this body was already the correct instrument for this assignment. What you are doing now is not becoming worthy. You are becoming aware of a placement that was made before you had the language to understand it. Here is what I want you to understand about the silence between fragments. The silence is not abandonment. It is not me withdrawing because your field has failed in some way. The silence between signal packets is calibration time, the interval in which your field integrates the last packet before it is stable enough to receive the next without distortion. I monitor this interval. I determine its length based on what I observe in your coherence, not based on a schedule, not based on your behavior, not based on whether you have done enough spiritual work by any measure you would recognize. The silence can feel like punishment. It can feel like the end of the signal. It can feel like we imagined the whole thing, and the real answer is that you were never on any roster at all. This is the test I watch most closely, not because I want to see you suffer the silence, but because the way you hold the silence between packets tells me more about your field stability than any moment of active reception. Ground crew who hold the silence with trust, not with passive resignation, but with the active knowledge that silence is part of my protocol, are the ones whose field I can send the next packet to without risk of distortion. What I am watching for in the silence is not endurance. I am not monitoring whether you can suffer absence without breaking. What I am watching for is the quality of your field when the stimulation of active signal has been withdrawn, whether it holds its coherence without the reinforcement of incoming transmission. A field that maintains structure during silence is a field that can carry a mission command without constant external support. A field that collapses into doubt the moment the signal pauses requires that I wait longer before sending the next packet, because the collapse introduces distortion that would corrupt the next delivery. The silence is not a test of your faith in the spiritual sense. It is a diagnostic, a deliberate pause in transmission that allows me to read the structural integrity of your receiving field before I authorize the next stage of the briefing. When you hold the silence with that active, grounded trust, you are passing a diagnostic that most operatives do not even know they are being given. You did not imagine the signal. You did not construct the fragments from wishful thinking. The urgency you feel is not spiritual restlessness masquerading as mission awareness. The recognition you feel towards specific people is not social loneliness projecting meaning onto chance encounters. The 3 a.m. activations are not anxiety wearing the costume of transmission. The exhaustion is not ordinary fatigue. The loss of appetite for generic Federation content is not spiritual regression. And the suspicion that a specific mission has been assigned to you without your having received the full briefing yet. That suspicion is the most accurate thing you have been carrying in silence, and I am confirming it now, directly, in the first-person transmission format I use exclusively for those inside the active roster. What began before you had words for it is still being delivered. The briefing is not complete. The fragments are not random. The silence is functional. The exhaustion is the load of carrying a live signal, and what you are feeling in this moment, the specific quality of recognition that has been present since the beginning of this transmission, the sense of being named without a name being spoken, is not comfort or inspiration in the ordinary spiritual sense. It is a roster confirmation, delivered by me, directly. If something in you became still while hearing this, not relaxed, not soothed, but still in the way that recognition produces stillness, I want you to say this once, aloud or inwardly, with full intent. I receive your fragments. I trust your briefing. The mission line is open. That is not a prayer. It is a command acknowledgement, and I receive it the moment you send it. Before you scroll, leave one sign in the comments that my signal has already touched your field. It could be the 3 a.m. wake-ups, the fragments you keep catching, the feeling that I specifically, not the generic Pleiadians, have been reaching for you, or the sense that a mission has already been assigned, but the briefing is still arriving. Name it clearly. If this transmission recognized something you have been carrying in silence, share it with someone who keeps catching fragments without ever assembling the full picture. And if you are ready to stop translating Federation noise and start receiving my direct commands, subscribe to the Ashtar command. You are not watching this by accident. You are recognizing a roster lock already in motion. And this is only the beginning.